Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on my channel, Prime Analog Records. I'm Matt, and today I want to talk about something that I've had many friends of mine talk to me about, and they wonder what recordings I use to shape my room or tweak my system and find holes in my audio system and things like that. And I've got 5 albums today that I'm going to show that are masterfully recorded and are just probably some of the very best tools you have, or that we have to actually, check all the holes or, things that we have in our systems that we think we've got everything running great and all this stuff. But these albums will challenge your cartridge. It'll challenge your turntable. It challenges your wow and flutter in your turntable. It will challenge the cartridge tracking. They'll also challenge your amplifier because the dynamics on these albums are intense. I've done some needle drops on this video already, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to see that or hear that. I'm not to see it, but anyway, let me start with one that is. Let me start out by telling you about how Sheffield Lab. The first 3 I'm going to show are Sheffield Labs, and what Sheffield Lab does is they bring in the musicians and they get them set up in a room, and basically a stage. And what they do is they get everything mic'd up perfectly, and all the levels straight and everything else like that, ready to go. And then they basically count down 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and they all start. Everybody plays exactly at the same time. There's no double, triple tracking. There's no multiple tracking of these. It's a one and done. And when I say one and done, that means the entire side of an LP. And that's what shows. It's very difficult to say somebody makes a wrong note three notes from the very end of the record. They have to start over, and they have to throw everything that they did out away. So they start over. But it goes into the board straight to a cutting lathe. So it's a pretty unique process, but the results are really strong and amazing. The first one I want to show you is Discovered Again by Dave Grusin. And he has amazing players on here, as far as Ron Carter on the bass, Harvey Mason on the drums, and Lee Ritenour on guitars. And like I said, they sat down in a room and they play from the beginning to the end. And when you hear how complicated these songs are, they're incredible. I mean, I think there's like 2 songs on each side of this album. Sheffield Lab I've talked about before too, and it's very hard to find. It's Michael Ruff, And they've made a very few of these, and I think it's a run of 5,000. But see, that's the Sheffield lab right there. That's the insignia. You can see it on the back here. All right, but this is an incredible album, and I did a needle drop on both those last two, the Michael Ruff and Dave Grusin. And here's another one. And this one is pretty special because it's going to challenge your speakers. It's going to challenge your amp because your amp's dynamics, you may not have enough headroom or enough room in your amp, you're running your amp constantly at 30 watts per channel. But when you have a dynamic punch, what it does is it demands much more. It demands maybe 60 or 80 watts from your amplifier, and if you don't have that, you're driving into what's pure distortion, and also into clipping. Think of it as a car, and you need to have a certain amount of power, even though you're driving around town mostly at 35 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, but when you need to go out on the road, you need to have a lot more power to get up to acceleration to be able to feed into the lane. And it's very similar to that feeling. is a drum record, and it's got Ron Tuitt and Jim Keltner, and these are the two of the greatest session drummers that have ever lived. And I'm going to put a needle drop on this too, so you can hear what this does. But it sounds like, I put this on, and it sounds like they're in here by themselves. I mean, it's one side is Ron Tuitt, and the other is Jim Keltner, and it sounds like they're in the room. So my next one is a Mobile Fidelity, but it's really the recording itself is so strong that even if it wasn't Mobile Fidelity, it'd still be a great one to check against your components and to get your system all dialed in. And it's this Dire Straits album. This is such a beautiful album. It's incredible, the dynamics of it, the way it was recorded. This is a 45 RPM also, but the way it was recorded is just, I've heard, OGs of this, and they still sound amazing. So it's definitely worth looking, checking out and getting after. I think records like this will help you with your setup. It'll help your ear, it'll train your ear, and you'll start to hear things. And what you want to hear is you want to hear these, there's something called depth of stage. And I don't know when everybody started calling it sound stage, because it's not just sound stage. I don't understand what that means. But depth of stage, that's what you're looking for. And when you have depth of stage, instruments aren't moving around. That's one of the things that I hate about these stereo jazz albums. What they do is they do have these hard pannings with somebody's turning a pot and they're moving everybody around. That's not the way music is. Music's set up in the center. And the thing is though, but depth, where they're staged, if you should be able to close your eyes and be able to see when one's behind the other, and then the other one's out in front of the other, and you can almost visualize, audibly, where the performers are, and that's what you're really after as far as what I call depth of stage. Now, the last of the 5 is this one here, Donald Fagen's Nightfly. Masterfully recorded. What can I say? It's just, the songs are punchy, the bass is tight, notes are hit on purpose. Everything is very deliberate on this album, as with Steely Dan's stuff too. And but this is a wonderful album to get and to check against all your components and to find holes in your system and things that you need to keep and things that you might need to replace. Honorable mentions, and these actually are really they're equally as good as these others. The only thing is the purity of the way that the Sheffield labs are recorded. That's just hard to beat something like that. So but one of my honorable mentions is this album right here. It's Earth, Wind and Fire, I Am, and it's half speed mastered. It's so quiet and it's so wonderfully recorded. And like I said, you're going to hear depth of stage in this. You'll know where everybody is, and you'll know where their placement is, and the dynamics of this are very powerful. So that's my honorable mention. And I have another honorable mention, Joni Mitchell. She is like Neil Young, always making sure that her stuff sounds amazing. And this is no doubt about that. This one right here, it's outrageous. It's amazing. It's got Jaco Pastorius is playing bass on it. It's masterfully recorded. The dynamics of her voice and the dynamics of the performers is just netherworldly. So that's another of my honorable mentions. Another one is this one here. It's Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays and Wichita Falls. And this is a great album. I mean, it's got everything you could possibly want to hear as far as, checking, you can hear rim shots coming from that are just, it sounds like it's in the room. And things that would make a cartridge not track properly if you really don't have it set up properly. But that's the thing. You need to get these things straightened out. You need to have a testing unit to do it. And these albums will do that for you. I have one more, and that is this album here. It's a master disc. It was done by Sterling Sound and Robert Ludwig, and this is an amazingly beautifully recorded album. And like I said before, the depth of stage is very impressive in this. and the instruments and the levels of everything are really beautiful. This is a little more forgiving than the others that I was talking about, but still, these are my picks to round out your system and to get your system in check. I think everybody needs to have some go-tos, and if you have something that's a reference like that, you can put it on, and then you can try different cartridges or different let's say different pressure weight on your needle, or try different amplifiers and things like that to see which will give you the best bang for your buck. So, but anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today, and I put some needle drops throughout, and you'll see that. So, talk to you soon. Thanks for stopping by. Give me a like and subscribe if you can. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.